Oh, back again. Guess who's back? Yes, we're back. Dustin Kava, B.C. Wehman, because cannabis is back. Hey, everybody, how you doing out there? It's Friday, so you know that means it's Friday, so you know that means because cannabis is here to regale you in our fun cannabis conversations. Talk a little bit about what's happening in the world of legalized marijuana, your weed, your grass, your devil's lettuce. What do they call it, Dustin? What's the cool word? Like we say cannabis because it's official and proper. Nice to see you, by the way, Dustin Kava. What's like the lingo that the kids say today? Fire? Like what's the cool hip word?
It depends. I mean, like the flower guys are losing out on the lingo the last couple years, but the oil guys are having all the fun. You know,
Oh,
you
yeah.
so it's like, I mean, you really get to play when it's like, yo, man, that's my sauce, or a whole manner of things. And there's just a thousand different, not a thousand, there's many different consistencies and many different ways to go about it. So I think the oil guys have all the fun.
Yeah, they may have it. Like I said, I think fire. I don't think anyone calls it like grass anymore. Like I think that's kind of a thing. I know there's companies named with grass in it, but I don't think like that's something people call it. I feel like weed is so yesterday's news. Cannabis is I think the preferred term. Marijuana is it's okay, but it's got some different connotations in the past, and I think we've tried to move away from it. Um, I think it needs something cooler. We need to come up with the next cool term because cannabis sounds so official, right? And sometimes I say cannabis, I'll go into a place. I'm in there and I'm down with the Delta 8. I don't know if you've tried a lot of Delta 8, Dustin, but I'm down with the Delta 8. And I was in a shop the other day purchasing some Delta 8. And I started talking to the young sales rep, who was I'm sure a nice young man, about cannabis. And I kept saying cannabis and cannabinoids. And I kept asking all this questions about the product. And he's like, I don't know, man. It's Delta 8 chocolate bar. He just kind of looked at me and I was like, oh, I think I'm trying to be like, does he think I'm pretentiously being a douchey smart dude? Right. Because I was in my, I told you I'm dressed down today. It's casual day here. I was in like a JC Penney's catalog 101, like a polo shirt, a comfortable pair of Dockers, some brown loafers, a matching belt to my brown loafers. And I'm talking cannabinoid percentages. And the dude was just like, yo, man, like, do you want to eat it and get a little high or what? Like, I was just like, okay. So do you feel sometimes when you say like cannabis and things that people think you're being a little too pretentious? I don't know. Does it feel pretentious to always say cannabis and terpenes and cannabinoids and the ECS?
It's such a hard thing because there's a part of me that says that experience with you was mostly designated on an ill-informed employee and not necessarily that you were being pretentious with the way you were trying to talk about something that they carried.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
he just didn't give a shit. He just didn't care.
exactly,
He just didn't care.
exactly. But at the end of the day, no, I think we do need to shift the rhetoric around the way we speak about it. And I think I like cannabis doesn't make the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And so I don't know what that feeling is, but I will say that it doesn't twitch me, in the same way that if I was at a dinner and my boy was like, yo, man, let's go smoke some of that weed, I instantly am just like, everybody around us is just,
I
But
get that way with that word too. Weed is a word of the cannabis themed or centric lexicons, right? All the different slang terms that I have taken out. I just don't use. I'll call it grass, unironically sometimes. I'll say marijuana because it's just easy. I say pot a lot. I feel like pot's a great one that isn't really offensive. I don't really know the origin behind pot or why it's there, but I like that term. Like I like to use the word pot. So I use that a lot. I probably say if I'm down with the easy to say because cannabis also is a bit of a mouthful sometimes, right? It's a bit of something. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
but it's better than the jazz cabbage and
Ooh,
the
I think we
like
should bring back jazz cabbage. Jazz cabbage has a very sexual connotation to it. I mean,
well
it goes in the line like the whole plant, like all the different strains are some are ridiculously named, some are coolly named. So there's a whole lineage or history of just kind of silly names when it comes to this product.
I just have an issue with the trademarking of names that inevitably had hurt people in the past. So it's like I love certain brands like Gage. I love their marketing. I love everything about it. But it's like you trademarked the word gauge, which was a common cannabis term, like I don't know. And then that term was used to hurt people in the past and stuff. I don't know. There's just where does it stop, and where is pop culture, the lexicon behind it? When do you get to stop owning the pop culture, nostalgia behind it? Who,
Don't
yeah.
know. Who gets to control that? That's a great question. Which actually will bring us to today's topic. I feel like you're doing this on a professional level, Dustin. That was a top-notch segue, sir, from pop culture and marketing to what I want to talk about today. This past weekend, Dustin Kava, we are both in undisclosed locations here in Northeast Ohio. I am a huge fan of Cleveland sporting events. I got my Cavs bobbleheads in the back. Little K love, little LeBron. I still love LeBron. He did a lot for the city. No hatred there. I just replaced my Cleveland Browns bobbleheads, which if you watch the show this fall, you'll see in the background. I'm seasonally with my bobbleheads in the back. And so it was the Super Bowl, right? I think we can say that without copyright infringement. It was the Super Bowl, Super Bowl like 50 something. The Los Angeles Rams defeated the Cincinnati Bengals, which, by the way, I was good with as a Browns fan. That was a big debate here locally. Like, should we root for the Bengals because they're from Ohio? Give them that vibe. I'm like, no, not at all. Like, not at all. So let me ask you, Dustin. I watched the Rams. I watched the whole thing. I watched the commercials. I watched the late '90s rap revival halftime show with Dre and Snoop and Eminem. Did you watch any of that last Sunday evening?
No, not
No,
one
not a
minute.
single. Hold on, not a single. Like, you like some sports and some things. I know that. I don't know. Oops, I hit my microphone. A ton about you. I'm going to learn here. No football at all. No Super Bowl. No commercials. No Dre and Snoop at halftime. Nothing.
You know what was really funny is my son, who is a third of my age and shouldn't know anything about football, was so on point but at the same point, we did not watch it. He was with me together that day. And as much as he was naming off who on the Bengals he expected to do what they were going to do, and why I have to root for, this Ohio team and this whole thing. Nah, we didn't watch 1 minute of it. And it's not that I don't love the sport. It's that over the last 10 years, it started to mean a little other things to me, with my son being so young. And, it just, I don't know. It's a lot different for me. I think of it as a fear point of like, oh my gosh, if my son starts loving football and starts, I can't watch it on the field. I can't be that football dad who's just like, yeah, pound him. I'm just like, please don't hurt my kid. Like, this kid is so awesome. And I can't watch this. But his mom, on the other hand, is so down. She would be right there of just like, you get that little kid, like
Sports parents get weird.
I don't know.
Is there a sport you'd push them to? Like, I know it's hard to say. You got to let them go what they go. But do you have a preferred sport if you had to choose, or maybe artistic endeavor? Do you have something that you will gently give the wee lad a bit of a nudge towards?
I feel
That
like
comes from the parents. Anyone that plays soccer, kids that play lacrosse. Like, I mean, there's no kid who's like 2 and is like, I'm going to let him play lacrosse. I mean, that's like a parent watching it on TV, seeing it, or it's football or basketball. It comes from community and culture just as much as genetic ability. Do you have anything you hope he's predisposed to so you can ride that cash cow when you get older?
Gosh, sport wise, I was hoping for something more along the like extreme biking, or that this kid would have loved like
X Games,
skateboarding or
that's what I'm
something.
talking
Yeah,
about.
right. That's what I was hoping, because I could really get down in that realm. Even if he's getting hurt, I'm like, yo, dude, I think you could take this
look
one.
awesome.
You may be falling 15 feet, but you got this, bro.
You look rad.
But the funny thing is the first sport we attempted to allow him to go into was t-ball, and we went about it all wrong, and it set the tone so off from the very literally the first second, that like the entire season was an absolute quagmire of nightmares. Like he was 7 or so, and we just, hey buddy, we signed you up for t-ball. We start in like 4 days. And this kid ran into the bathroom, locked that door, and was like, he's again 7 years old at the time, and was like, how can I and this is his exact words, how can I ever trust you again when you are going to sign me up for something like that without ever talking to me first? Like, literally, we're 7 years old, just laid down the law of like, you're right. You're right. I'm so wrong in
Good
this. And
point.
you are so right. But at the end of the day, we are already signed up and we have to follow through with the things we say we're going to do. You know, this team now expects us to be on it. And this is just the way it's got to go. But every single game and practice was indeed a struggle behind that. And, you know, like, and now this year was wrestling, which it was his first year wrestling, and a whole nother spectrum. Now we got like, he thought that he was the man. And I love my son with everything I had, but he's only had his younger cousins around. And so wrestling a 3-year-old younger cousin, you can sure feel tough, right?
Feel
Exactly.
tough, sure, absolutely.
But this was the very first year that kids his age got to, you know, set him in place a little bit. And there's a part of me that really was looking forward to that. Not I'm like watching it because I couldn't watch the matches. My heart sank every single match.
Such an
But
emotional wreck.
he needed it. He needed some type of a realization that that this is how life is in some ways. And I really thought that he gained a lot of value this year, even though halfway through the season, he did not want to keep going on there and having these kids show him up. But, you know, yeah, I look at it from a different lens anymore. And when I was playing football, I was how to say this? I was the slowest and the most absolutely ill-equipped kid on the football team. When we would practice and we would run around the field, they would every single kid on the team was lapping me, you know? Like,
oh no.
And I'm not saying it was every single kid. We even had some girls on the team and that pass you up, dude. So, and every game, I never understood the rules at the time, you know, like there was so much about it that I failed that it put a sour taste in my mouth from there on out. And yeah, so I get to look at it from the parents' lens now, and I'm still just as awkward on the field.
It is a different experience from that side, and there are some terrible sports parents and some good sports parents. I have been both. I was a sports parent. I was a sports player. I was better sports parent than player. I was not athletically gifted in any way, shape, or form. Probably why I'm sitting here hosting a show talking about cannabis as opposed to out there, making my millions with the athletic gifts I was given. But so you know not watch the Super Bowl, and maybe you're not well versed in sports, but a bigger part of the Super Bowl, Dustin, is kind of like, you know, the halftime show, right? And this year's halftime show was the late 90s, early aughts, Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, upside down hanging 50 Cent, who was body shamed because the dude got swole real quick. Mary J. Blige belting it out. So it was a good halftime show. But the other big part, which I feel has lost its luster in the last decade or so, is the Super Bowl commercial, which is a big deal, right? I mean, just hearing that, what that means. You know that it costs millions of dollars for 30 seconds or minute-long spots in the Super Bowl, and they have tradition. Some years are very silly, right? Some years everyone puts out their funniest commercial. A few years ago, or post, 9/11 era, we got all these like emotional, pulling on the heartstrings commercials. But it's a big deal, right? And companies go all out. But I feel like, and maybe it's just the amount of distractions we get and the amount of advertising we see anyway, that it's become a little bit smaller of a deal. But do you have a Super Bowl commercial that you ever remember seeing, or something like that, that was a big debut? I feel like this year is about like movie debuts. They debuted several Marvel trailers and such, but none of those iconic like Budweiser or Levi's or Pepsi kind of commercials of past. Do you have any that you ever remember or stick out, that when it comes to that big game kind of deal?
Oh my gosh. Like in my head, I visualize parts, like very snapshot still images of some of them from 15, 20 years ago. But no, like now that I think about it, all I remember are the logos of the brands, So, and I do not remember the message or even what happened in it. And I don't know what that is about me, that my brain is just like, this information is just not meant to be in my spectrum.
Uh, Well, this year it was a deal because much like years past, so it's been since 2018, right, with the passing of the Farm Bill, which kind of legalized industrial hemp a little bit, CBD, and obviously, 2014, you had Colorado and Washington begin adult use sales, and since then, we now have, I think, we sit today, February 17th of 2022, with 18 adult use states. We have two in kind of a half countries with Luxembourg and Malta coming on board, so we're kind of, much more legal than we have been in years past. And while alcohol commercials, like beer commercials, are a cornerstone, a cornerstone of the advertising for Super Bowl, paid for heavily by Anheuser-Busch, by Coors Light. Like these are tried and true. You got the Spuds McKenzie's ones, you got the what's that? You remember those ones? You remember the what's
Yep.
that? Right? You got the what's up guys, right? You got all those. I mean, those are all famous beer commercials we all remember. And cannabis has been trying to advertise. Big companies have been trying to advertise for a while, and they haven't been able to get on. They've yet to approve a cannabis centric, even CBD centric commercial thus far for Super Bowl coverage. So when I say that, just in general, is someone, and we actually, funny enough, not that the audience today is privy to this, we had this conversation yesterday with our buddy Anthony Trav about alcohol and how you can market it and the similarities and then differences in the cannabis marketing space. So when I say that, just in general, like how does that make you feel? Before I show you, I want to show you a couple examples of some videos that they've tried to submit that haven't passed. But just that fact that even though it's legal, that Super Bowl, and they're willing to pay. Like they're going to give you, right? The company Weed Maps, which I'm going to show you Weed Maps in a second, 2 million. Like they're willing to, scratch that check. Who I think NBC had this year's Super Bowl was like, nope. Does that hurt your feelings? Does that piss you off? What does that make you feel when I say they're not going to take your money regardless of how green it is?
It is frustrating in the sense of when you look at it through the lens of alcohol. When I kept thinking about commercials and cannabis and what that would even mean in the future with sports, I think about like which sports are having the hardest time retaining athletes in, or I feel like those are the sports I see a lot of the change in the acceptance of cannabis within their sport, So I guess if there was to be one sport that I thought was going to be the last holdout in terms of cannabis sponsorships and the athletes being able to use cannabis, it's going to be the NFL. It's going to be
And they are
football.
probably the most, and maybe baseball, Major League Baseball is still a little bit there. NBA's all in, like they have pretty much stopped testing for cannabis. It's not an issue for them. Obviously, I don't think they want active players probably promoting it like in that, but you're seeing a lot of them, and we'll talk after this about CBD and stuff like that, especially like that's becoming a legit opportunity for them. So the NBA is all in. They have stopped worrying about it. The NFL is slowly coming along with as regards to player safety, the use of it, the use of CBD after games, and less stringent testing. But when it comes to money, as you said, sponsorship, like what's going to be on there, every actually NFL team is owned by an old white dude. I'm not going to say they're political leaning, but I'm sure I can guess what happens when you get billions in the bank. So it makes it they're less inclined, right? They have money. They don't need 2 million from Weed Maps because they can get 2 million from everyone, right? Anyone that wants to advertise. So they're not a little concerned about it. But let me show you this. So this year there was a rejected commercial, and they went kind of the funny route. Let's see if we can pull the share up here. Let's bring this video up. All right, so this was a rejected commercial. Let's bring this up here. Boom, we got this. All right, so this was a rejected commercial from Weed Maps for this year's Super Bowl.
I'm an icon. But since we can't talk about cannabis publicly, my likeness is being used as a safe substitute.
Oh, Brock?
Hi.
Oh, hi indeed.
I don't see the
Oh, it
resemblance.
was on sale. That's the only reason I got it. Oh, no, no. Hey, where you headed? Under break?
Finance meeting, Janet.
Okay, bud. Go get that green.
They're not even being subtle anymore.
Don't do this to me.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, Susan.
Let's hotbox this.
It's taking over my life. Cannabis is here to stay. That's great. But can we just call it what it is? I'm broccoli. I mean, you guys get it. Pot, leaf.
It's messed up.
Thank you.
So there, this commercial here, right, from Weed Maps. We'll stop our screen share there. From Weed Maps is not about the plant, right? It's not even selling Weed Maps. It's doing that ironic thing where it talks about poking fun how broccoli's resemblance to the plant itself. So broccoli's resemblance to that in oh my gosh, we're having video technical difficulties. To that. So when you see that, Dustin, you feel like that should have been in the Super Bowl?
No, I actually think back to like an old, MedMen commercial that was done. That I'm gonna get the link right now while I'm talking. But either way, I thought that like, again, they keep making this. It felt too kid friendly. Still, it felt too. Again, I didn't think that an alcohol commercial should necessarily be remembered by a 15 or 10-year-old kid 15 years later. There's a problem I have with that type of ability, and again, one of these commercials, the joke is not on cannabis industry as a whole. There has to be some type of growing up. And even though I want to laugh, and it is the exact type of commercial I'm thinking that it's going to happen at the Super Bowl, I don't know. I got to get it to grow up soon, or else, I'm never going to be able to talk about my career in my son's school. I'm never going to be able to I'm going to have all those things that commercial was explaining and talking about actually continue to happen. Something about that commercial. Well, yeah.
Let's take it this way then. So there's been another ad that has been submitted for Super Bowl play that got to the final consideration, because you're going to see here in a second, it takes a different approach to what it's doing. So let me pull up this one, and I will forewarn you here, because we're both emotional souls. It's going to pull on your heartstrings. This is the opposite of what we just saw. Yeah, we're going to see live on air, right? This is a tough one. I'm being super legit before I even know it, because I know me and you are sensitive. You can even tell by the still screen. Like, me and you are sensitive people. So this takes a look. This is from Acreage Cannabis. This was in 2019 that they tried to get this onto the air.
Austin would have dozens to hundreds of seizures every single day. None of the prescriptions would work. One pill almost killed our son.
I've had 3 back surgeries, and I was on opioids for 15 years. It was a very dark, very depressive time in my life.
After my injury, I felt like I couldn't live with the pain, but I couldn't live with this treatment long term. It was unbearable.
I don't have to live like that anymore. Medical cannabis saved Austin's life.
Cannabis has given me my life back.
There are families in other states having to watch their children die.
I want to see my brothers and sisters who sacrificed so much for this country have access to the safest treatment possible. This really is an injustice.
It's not just unfair, it's cruel.
So Acreage Holdings goes the other way, right? They go political activism. I can see it already, right? We're both, feeling it into their, so you can kind of see Tailwind the other way. Now, when that is, I think, goes the opposite way of what we just talked about. So seeing that ad, do you wish that would have played during the Super Bowl? Do you think that sends the right message for what you're going for?
I think so. I especially think in the white, the owners of the teams. That is what I think, would be more in line with something that would be acceptable among those things. I also think that's the type of messaging I think I need to have come first before the Save Brock Ali message. You know, I think that like it's again the political activism message is the one that I think. I don't know. Yes. I think that one should have came first. That's what I'm going to end on. There's emotional sides of that, but yeah.
No, I get it. I got to do this. I would be remiss if I did not point out that there has been, and I know I set you up for a bit of a tease here. There has been one commercial that has aired during the Super Bowl. Now, Dustin, you're a smart man. You know about advertising, and we talked about those big time spots. There is a tier system for the price point for Super Bowl commercials, right? You want to be the first commercial break is actually maybe not as good as, say, the 2-minute warning heading into halftime, right? Because people at the first commercial break, although maybe that's a good one, they're all expecting it, but end of first quarter, that's when people get up, go to the restroom, fill up their chip bowl. So there's ones that take precedent in what they have done in order to lower the cost and then give more opportunities to the local affiliates to make a little cash, is they sell off the spots that are heading into halftime, right? The end of the first half in that spot when people are waiting for the Super Bowl show and they all pretty much get up and go somewhere. And then the end of halftime heading into the third quarter, those are typically reserved for local communities, local companies, your school, like University of Akron was here. And are these little kind of car dealerships that can't afford millions can maybe pay $75,000 and get a local spot, but get Super Bowl coverage, right? And so any local affiliate has the opportunity to do this. And a couple of years ago, this was 2 years ago, there was a gentleman running for Senate. He was running for Senate, and he was a gentleman named T.I. from the U.S. Virgin Islands, right, which has legalized medicinal cannabis, but not adult use cannabis. And they actually approved his little commercial running for that. And this made news, by the way, because just recently, I don't know if you saw this, there was someone that was running for Senate, a gentleman from the South who did an ad. He's on two now. The second one was burning the Confederate flag. He's all in. The first one was standing in a big giant field of cannabis with a big old blunt, smoking on that sucker. So T.I. here had one that was able to play, and this was during the 2020 Super Bowl. And I think this is cool. We'll give him his props because he was technically the first cannabis-centric, and now it only played in the Virgin Islands, so small viewership here. But technically the first person to be able to get a Super Bowl commercial in. Let's set this up here. Let's give him his due.
Rationale behind medicinal cannabis is real. The science is real. The economics behind it is real. The health behind it is real. And the opportunities behind it are very real. You have young people thinking differently now about cannabis and being more responsible of what cannabis is and respecting cannabis for the value that she really gives.
Short and quick to the point. One of only two Rastafarian.
I
apologize. Didn't mean to cut you off there. One of only two Rastafarian members of the United States Congress, by the way, T.A. Harrison. T.A. I apologize, not T.I. Onto there. So let's give him his due as the first person to get there. That's a good one, right? That makes you feel good, right? Just kind of his vibe. It is funny though, right? We've come a long way from cannabis on television. Just because I'm in the mood and I like sharing videos and testing our new technology. Do you remember some of these old school? Let me see if you remember these. Let's go back into a little bit of 80s Just Say No Fear. All right, those are good times for advertisements and such when it comes to that. So let's see if you remember this one here. This is one of my favorites growing up for that. Let's try this one. This is how you know, sir.
Age.
Right? Oh yeah, this is a good one here. We'll share this sucker. Let's make this go full screen here real quick. Oops, I already was. Oh, this is a small video, right? We didn't have the technology back then. All right, here we go.
You are not thinking of driving, are you, my friend? Come now, Stuart. Reconsider. You're in no condition.
You remember this one?
Ring for a taxi.
No.
I'm telling you. Don't be a fool. I'm begging you. Trust me. You are high. Way too high.
All right, that's back in the day, right? That's mad showing you how to do it. Does that make you, if you were a kid and you see that commercial, are you feeling like, all right, sorry, your dad, you're right. I'm not going to do drugs. I feel like that's the opposite. I feel like that's as funny as the broccoli one.
You know what? It worked on me until I was like 17. And then it did the opposite. But it scared the shit out of me until I was 17.
Here's the old standby. This is the classic. Let's show the original, one of the old school, still meme.
Is there anyone out there who still isn't clear about what doing drugs does? Okay, last time.
Last time.
This is your brain. This is drugs.
Drugs help you cook delicious omelets.
This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
I do, actually. I have a lot of questions now that we think about it. I have a tremendous amount of questions. What questions do you have upon watching a guy crack an egg and tell you, Dustin, that you're silly? I don't even know what the point of the brain on drugs. I mean, I get what they're trying to say, but it didn't age well. Neither did the Angry Pirate, if I'm being honest.
You know what? That one definitely didn't work on me. But this one that I just sent in the chat that I'm going to have you bring up, this last link, this is the one that made the most impact on me when I was young. I had to be like 12 years old, 10 years old, right at the cusp when I was being introduced to certain things at certain times. And I think this one, like, always.
All right, let me bring this up here for you. All right, so this one is from your childhood. This is not the MedMen one you sent me. So this is the one from.
Yes.
You're there. All right, let's bring this sucker up here. All right, let's check this out and see. I don't know if I know this one, so let's watch this together and see what it is.
Uh-oh.
Hey, how was school today? Okay, good talk.
Jason, could you pass the salt, please, darling?
The salt, Jason. Pass the salt. Don't you groan at your mother like that. I told you, he's probably autistic. Yeah, with reflexes like that, no wonder you're the only.
I feel like they put this guy in the original video.
This is not what I thought.
I think this guy.
Yeah, I don't know how that
I
link.
think
I
you
got
got
the wrong
rickrolled
link
here.
to you.
You having a stroke right now?
I totally did.
You
Okay.
smell burnt toast?
Oh my god.
So what someone did, by the way, props to them. We'll have to figure out who they are. Props to them for putting that into there.
Yes, they got me on that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it happens.
I even thought I went through the thumb line, but
no, they did a good. What's that? Deep fake? I think deep fake is what the kids are calling it this day. That. Well, here, let me show you the. Let me ask you this. Like, so there's one more video I wanted to show, and I want to talk about athletes and cannabis here. I got a little sidetracked, but that's all right. One more video I wanted to show you. So we've looked a little bit at past PSAs, right? We saw the Angry Pirate, which was kind of silly, but also I think may have a good ability to resonate with its audience, right? Let's be honest. If you are smoking a little bit, it may be funny to say, and it wasn't don't do drugs. It wasn't as ridiculous, over the top, this is your brain on drugs, like in a frying pan. But it was more like, careful, bro, which I think is good. And it feels like what happens when you have any sort of gambling commercial, alcohol commercial, right? They go and they're like, beer's awesome. And then real quick, and they're at the end, they're like, don't drink and drive, drink responsibly, right? It's all on you, right? Gamble, 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 gamble. If you have a gambling problem, call. You just told me to gamble, gamble, gamble. And then at the very, very end, a super fast talking dude came in and said, by the way, you shouldn't do these things. And as we were talking yesterday, which I don't know why I mentioned that with this audience here, with Anthony Trav, there was a conversation about alcohol and how you can't advertise. No one sells alcohol like, yo, drink a shitload and just get messed up. Like, no one says that. No one's like, just party. I mean, movies do and such, but no alcohol company shows like frat bros slamming beers is their advertisement, right? That's not the message they want. They want respectable. They want countryside. They want truckers and bikini bearing beachgoers, right? And these type of super active folks who probably don't pound 12 Bud Lights in a night. But they also, put out these safety things like we just saw. Don't drink and drive, do that. So cannabis is trying to catch up a little bit. And there's a new company, we saw MAD, which had tried their Angry Pirate one. So there's one more company that's working on some safe driving techniques. And I actually like this. I'm curious if you see, if you think, and I don't know if you've seen this before, if you think this is effective to stop you from, making a bad decision, or if it sends the right message.
Hey, can you chop the pineapple? Chop the pineapple.
Nope. I'm high. How about I wash off the grapes?
Yes.
Okay. You're already making good decisions when you're high.
I want tacos. Will you drive? I'm a little toasty.
Nope. I'm high. Let's order in. Don't make an exception when it comes to driving. If you feel different, you drive different.
See, now I like that one because it's
did.
basically saying it's cool to smoke, but if you do feel a little toasty, smoke responsibly, right? So
Yes.
they're totally safe about it. I actually feel that approach, and that's brand new from the National Association of Traffic Safety Administration or something like that. That they're putting out this video, like these kind of, and there's another, they have a whole series of these that are silly, but they're not demonizing the consumption of the plant. They're saying, like, the drinking, like, I know you're going to do it. Just be honest with yourself. You might be a little too stoned, like, to go out there and drive. You may have consumed a little too much medicine. Maybe you should chill on the couch in DoorDash. It's
Right.
2022, people. Right. So, do you like that one though? Do you feel like that's that? I feel like it
It
walks
did
the good
resonate
line
with
of,
me. It really did. Yeah. And it's something I think even my mom, or my grandmother, it's something that I think they can get right now. I think that is what I think that's exactly the level that I would be hoping for in the time frame right now. And in the next year to 5 years, those are the types of ads I want to see more of.
I think we will. I think they'll find a place, right? Just like alcohol has its funny side and it has its serious side. We saw both, right? We saw the broccoli and we saw the Acreage Holdings, and I think somewhere in the middle, right? Kind of what that commercial or that safety advertisement attempts to do, I think, to the other part. Like, we know you're consuming, just be careful, right? If you want to be silly, I think just once again, not making it too silly. But I got to be honest, I don't mind the broccoli. I think it's clever commercial to basically talk about it the whole time. But I think it relies a little too much, as you said, on the stereotyping of it versus the other one, which just doesn't matter how they consume. They just did, right? Just like normal adults. It doesn't, put it down. We were talking before we got distracted by the videos, about athletes and getting into the product and consuming it. And, the testing and the NBA is way less, restrictive when it comes to use of its athletes. College still is, high school levels still are going to be, which is okay. I think we both agree it's more of an adult product anyway, if we're honest with ourselves. It's not really for the developing mind. I'm good with saying 25 is a limit. 21's legal, and I know they're children for epilepsy and such on CBD, all wonderful things, but I think we're both on that same page. Like, I didn't discover cannabis till I was in my mid 30s. And I feel like that's a great time to start because you've got your brain set, you're in your ways, and now you're just looking for something different, right? Or a different path to your own ailment. So, but we're seeing now with athletes, as they get out of it, as they get money, more and more athletes retired because they got to be not fond of it initially, getting into ownership of companies, right? We already got a ton of rappers, ton of famous people involved into it. CBD lines are popping up all over the place from athletes, as well as a lot of them are white label deals, right? They're like, hey, sell us our product. We'll give you whatever. Do you like that? Do you like more people getting into it? Do you think it's exciting to have that kind of mainstreamness to it, or just in general, like celebrities in general, Wiz Khalifa, Seth Rogen, famous athletes? How does it feel to you? Because they got the capital. You don't, right? We don't. I don't. If we had the capital, we'd both be sitting there having someone grow for us and living off that money, right? They got capital. You don't. They probably are consumers in some way, shape, or form, like us. Do you like it when they get into it? Do you think it helps make it mainstream? Does it piss you off? What do you think of celebrities or athletes getting into ownership of these companies? Is it good for the industry, bad for the industry, indifferent?
Wow. Indifferent really for the most part. Cause I only say that because there are some great success stories that I think the brands perfectly fit. They were absolutely aligned with that person. And I think when that's the case, it makes sense. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see the common denominator in terms of quality happen because of just the expense of the branding. So if this is the type of medicine that's going to get widespread and get into the most amount of hands because of the amount of marketing that they're able to do and the brand staying power of the celebrity, it just says to me that you have a lot more opportunity to kind of skirt the everything else that's with the company, but I have seen, that I think Mike Tyson's a perfect example. We personally have known people who have had processes bought by Mike Tyson, and the way he thought about his investments completely aligned with the company that he bought and everything that he acquired during this. And I think that it really set the tone for his brand later on down the line. And I think that it can be done right, but I think most athletes don't look at it like that. They look at it just as much as they're looking at, aligning with crypto meme fucking tokens and shit like that. Like, to them, it's just a quick money grab for a 2-year license. And I'm not sure if they even use their own product. And I do have a problem with that spectrum. I do have the facade of the celebrity endorsement.
You would be, I don't know, aghast to know, maybe excited. While cannabis was not featured in the Super Bowl, if I had to guess, I think there were probably 4 to 5 crypto-centric commercials. Larry David had one. They actually crashed someone's server because they had a QR code, which I don't know exactly the whole deal. I'd have to find the article that
Yeah, you
linked
got
to
like
something.
$15 worth of Bitcoin for free.
Yeah, and so it went to that, and it just kind of crashed the whole server. It was so popular. And then you had, obviously, Matt Damon's got this crypto commercial. Several. LeBron did a cryptocurrency for the crypto.com. Crypto.com is spending bank to get famous people, athletes,
what stadium
and
did they
actors.
just put their name above?
Is it the Staples Arena in Los Angeles?
I do believe so.
I believe, and there's people on. I love by the way, the sanctimonious. If you want to talk athletes and fans, the sanctimonious attitude of the fans saying, "I don't like this corporate shilling of crypto.com, but I'm okay with an office supply superstore." Right? They're like, I mean, it's Staples Center. Like, I get that maybe it's called Staples Center your whole life, but it's not like it was named after a person. So whether it's Staples Center or crypto.com, the weird part of be this corporate conglomerates, but not this corporate conglomerate is a little funny to me in that regard. So those commercials were big into there. I don't mind the athletes getting involved. I think a lot of them, as I said, are consumers, right? When they're through the sports growing up, culturally, right? It's embedded into a lot of communities. And I think it's good to have more ownership. And the nice part is, if we want to talk about an increase in diversity and social equity, the beauty of what this does is a lot of these athletes are African American. So it gives way more minority ownership. So I'm all for it, because on top of everything else, regardless of their usage, you have a lot more minorities, both male and female, but a lot of African American men, like, who are retiring from their sports, getting into ownership. A lot of rap stars and doing those things, getting into ownership, which further brings more diversity, which they can, gives people role models to get into the industry. So can't be bad. And it just gets more widespread, brings more mainstream, I think, acceptability. I think there's a weird thing that people say, if it's not Tommy Chong or Willie Nelson, or even Wiz Khalifa or Seth Rogen, it's Rob Gronkowski, or it's Al Harrington, right? He works with Viola Brands here. So I think that's good. I think it's a good thing for that. So I'm excited for that. And you know what else we're seeing? It's not there yet. I know the Super Bowl doesn't have it and such, but there are some low-level sports, we'll say, like bass fishing, by the way, has big CBD sponsorship. Tons of it in bass
I've
fishing.
seen
I know
PGA Golf as well have large CBD sponsorship.
CBD's into there. I'm a big fan of disc golf. I follow disc golf. You play a little bit. PD disc golf has a lot of CBD, especially, even some THC. A lot of these smaller tier, regional kind of sports. NASCAR, by the way, I think has a CBD company that now has a car on not the main NASCAR circuit, but in the minor driver and whatever they call them, right? The lower tier NASCAR has a couple CBD and industrial hemp companies. CBD is big product in the South, right? Big growing region, more acceptability coming down South. So you're seeing more and more in not the big ones. I think hockey has a couple too, by the way. The NHL, no MLB yet, no NBA though they're the closest. No NFL, but some of
But you
these
do
other
have
sports.
MMA.
Oh yeah, MMA's huge. You're right. MMA's huge. UFC and the variety of Bellator and them are big into, or will take money, advertise freely. Usually, once again, usually tiered towards the CBD side of it, not as much the THC. You know what we haven't seen though? Someone come out big and advertise like Delta 8. That's what I'm waiting for. No one's really advertising their Delta 8 that they have it. They're always talking about the CBD. I think they're all nervous to admit that they have the Delta 8 because it's all in that gray area. But I think it's cool. I think it's cool when these low level sports start to advertise because it becomes commonplace. I forgot about the MMA, and they were one of the first to do it because it's just commonplace now to see a CBD logo on the mat or on someone's shorts or in the corner, right? So I think it's good. I think it's good all around. It's going to be good. It brings more positivity. It gets people who aren't familiar with it more comfortable, right? Those other crowds. So you can't go wrong. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And do you think that it's an overlying, like the entire organization, it's from top down the decisions are made? Or do you think that it comes from, say, athletes up to owners, up to, someone else above?
Much like anything else, it probably depends on the situation. I would think initially it starts with, a lot of companies are saying, hey, I'll sponsor your sport, some minor league baseball teams. And then they're like, you look at the money and then you kind of look at the product. And I think if you assume that your, let's say customers, your viewers, right? If you assume your fan base consumes this product, I think it makes sense. I think in some instances, it would have to be the person at the top, like a UFC. It'd have to be Dana White that would have to sign off on that. And if it was to get into the NFL, clearly it would have to be signed off. There's a lot of contractual issues there. But I think it probably starts lower level because I don't think too many owners, unless they're in the industry now, unless they own a portion of it, are like, hey, let's get it out there. I think they like being on the DL. I think they're more willing to talk about crypto, like a Dallas Mark Cuban, who also is in the CBD industry, but they don't talk about that as much as he talks about his crypto and his NFT technology, right? Because there's still some legality issues on a federal level, and I think these guys are billionaires and they don't want people in their financial business. So I think they keep it on the DL. But the small companies or bass fishing, or it's money. And if someone willing to support them, have you ever seen like a NASCAR, car or a bass fisherman's shirt that they wear? There's like 19 logos. There is literally not a space that they can't find. And if there is, they're like, hey, we'll charge you less and just give us a tiny logo. Like we'll fit it in there like a Tetris puzzle, as many logos as we can on your jersey as humanly possible. So yeah, I just think they want the money. And if it's for CBD or if it's an illegal state, interesting enough, let me we'll kind of finish up on this before we talk about something awesome we learned this week. I just read an article about a cultivator that was pitching his township in New Jersey. His local, as we know, it's THC illegal on the federal level, legal on state levels, but can be illegal to have ownership of a facility zoning wise in a municipality or in a local area. And so this was some tiny town in New Jersey. And this guy was pitching a high end cultivation facility indoors. But the neighbors, were pitching, right? They were pitching a fit. They don't want him there. They got all the traditional stereotypical ways. And one of the things he said in this town hall, this caught my attention as we were preparing for today's show, was, the way it'll give back, right? He's going to have jobs. He'll have 100 some jobs in his facility. It's a big place, right? 100 some jobs. He'll have the taxes that the municipality would make because of their product. And he casually mentioned, and this is what caught the ire of some people, that, they would be involved in the community. For example, and this is what he said, for example, sponsoring a little league baseball team to T-ball. And this woman got nuts saying, I don't want your weed label on the back of my kid's shirt, right? So when it brings it to sports and parents and acceptance, I obviously think you would be okay having, the name of a company as a CBD, your kid, but Or would you? Let me ask you.
We
Like, so
did
let's.
it. I mean, Inhalables, when I owned Inhalables, we sponsored a couple football teams and a couple kids teams.
Did you get shit for it? Did you get backlash?
Well, that was the thing. We asked them ahead of time, is this all right? You know, would you as any, and every one of these teams were like, nope, every one of the parents on our team smokes. Every one of their kids can do, you know, if that's what pays for the jersey and that's what makes stuff happen, nope, we're awesome with it. But we still chose to not put our names on it and to just donate the money and call it a day, not look for advertisement, not anything. We just did what we thought was right for the kids. But on the adult teams, you know, we have had adult football team where they just don't give a damn. In fact, it's a
that's
badge
like the
of
adult flag
honor
football
to the guys
dudes
across
are
the thing,
yeah.
which is like, oh, glad you got the donut bakery, but guess who we get sponsored by? The head shop that you actually want to go to.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
like
and
sponsoring
so
a team in like a men's softball league where they got like Hitman number 69. Yeah, they are totally taking your sponsorship. Funny enough, you Inhalables, as well as the Cleveland School of Cannabis, the place that I work for, along with along with a medicinal recommendation facility, Green Harvest Healthcare, Dr. Bridget Williams, shout out. We'll have her on the show soon. We have our disc over here for the Rubber City Classic, which is a disc golf tournament I held here in Ohio. And we got you, Inhalables, Green Harvest Health, and the CSC to sponsor. And I ended up putting, because of your levelship, the names of your companies on the back of the shirts. And at the last minute, I had this weird. They came in. I approved all the different mock-ups. You know, approved them all. Go through the area. Obviously, everyone knew who we're at. And disc golf tournaments are willingly taking money. Any money they'll give us money, we'll advertise for. And so, I had the shirt out, and I knew that we had a couple juniors. Right, we have a few juniors playing, not a ton. And I had this weird pang, and I work in the industry and stuff, like this pang of guilt at the last second, like, oh God, what if some parent gets pissed at me because their son now, like, he's all excited to play in his first tournament, and I give him a shirt, not even Inhalables, which is vague, even though I think it has the smoke shop, but it's still vague. Green Harvest Health is vague. Cleveland School of Cannabis is not vague, but it's tiny. They were a smaller logo. Once again, smaller tiered. But I had this pang of guilt, like, should we? Like, should I put this out there? Like, no one complained, no one said anything, and disc golf is I think, a cannabis-centric sport in some ways. Not everyone, but it's friendly toward it. But I had this weird thing about that same thing, and it's interesting for you to mention about the Little League shirts that you chose. You still supported, but you couldn't even take the credit for it because of it's almost not worth the hassle sometimes in that regard. You just don't want, all it takes is one person, especially in 2022 with the viralness and the social media, especially in a small town, which could blow up. You know, you don't have to go national viral. You don't want to go local viral. Right? You just don't want that.
Right. Well,
So-
and I keep telling myself, you know, what was the end goal of sponsoring everything to begin with? Like, to me, it's usually that the event is doing something that I am inspired by. And so if it supports the event that inspires me, what do I need a logo on the sign for? Like, I got what I needed. I'm inspired. Like, I'm like, I want to see this happen next year and the year after. And yeah, it's just, what is the point? If you really want to just get your brand out there, I suppose there's probably better ways to do it than sponsoring a local event.
Probably. It's part of its community. I think any corporate company, any small company is looking for local people, right? If you're a local restaurant or the Chenjo's, the Checo's Italian restaurant, you want people to come by. You want to say, hey, I support these 6-year-olds, and so I want you to come by and, buy some meatballs from me. Same principle for you, but I think that's an even better example. I love your more altruistic nature. Like, what's the end goal? Is it to get these parents to come to Inhalables? No, you don't have a lot of competition, so they're probably coming there anyway if they live in the city. So now you're even better. You're like, who's the no-name team? Like, why don't they have a name on it? Well, they chose to donate. They don't need to put JJ's Tire Repair Service on the back. They don't care. So now you become the even cooler company that does it on the DL. No one complained, though? You didn't have any parents get mad? You had no one say anything?
No. In fact, it got so okay that even the high school soccer team, like the high school teams of local cities were asking to be sponsored by us. And to most of the thing that was okay still. And that's like a school districts where like you can't have it on your t-shirt walk, where we were absolutely never going to be okay with it in the first place, but they come to us and are like, we've already got the approval from everybody that matters. Would you be interested in sponsoring us? And it's just like, wow, I can't even believe that this is happening on a local level where it's actually being talked about before it's ever being presented to me. And I love that. I think there's something that is empowering about, you know, that yes, I think on the local level, these conversations are happening with grandmothers, with moms and dads, with, you know, again, a lot of these parents have children who are been helped by situations like this. And, you know, I think the conversation gets to happen on a more sympathetic level at the local level.
I hope so. We'll see. All right, we're coming to the end of our hour here for this week's show, Because Cannabis 2. It goes by fast, everyone. Be sure to check us out socially at MEETWM, MEETWM, on YouTube, Wayward Media. Check us out online, wayward.media. We got a great website up there. We're still revising it, still working on it. Got some other shows we'll be debuting in 2022 along with Because Cannabis. Really excited about what the future holds for wayward.media. Dustin, Anthony, Trav, and some other people working hard behind the scenes to make it happen. So follow us, subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. We definitely appreciate that. You know, give us a shout out. Join us next week. You know, we'll try and get these shows, get yourself involved. We got some guest interviews coming up soon, so we're excited for that as well. Before we leave today, Dustin, awesome fact you learned this week. I'll give you mine off the top because I got to be honest. I watched that commercial for Weed Maps, and I think it was the first time I've ever thought about broccoli looking like cannabis. I never really realized that was a thing, that it looks like it. I have consumed broccoli. I love broccoli. I'm a big broccoli fan, though I don't like the after smell when you cook broccoli. That's never pleasant. Like cooking broccoli and the residue that it leaves odor-wise is not pleasant. But I have never referenced my product, even with my dude, so to speak, illicitly, as broccoli. Is that something you've ever called it or ever? I told this to someone, by the way, before I was going to say this, and they said you've never used the emoji, which I didn't even know there's a broccoli emoji. You've never used the broccoli emoji to be like broccoli emoji question mark for your dude, and like is like a, you know, low key lingo, and I'm like, no, I didn't even realize that. Do you ever call it broccoli? Have you ever thought about it, like eating some broccoli, being like, this looks like cannabis? I say no.
I've never thought of it as the terms of like, I want to have my slang term that I'm writing my friends be that obvious to where I say, hey man, you got any broccoli at your house? And it's
no
like,
one
like,
texts anybody for broccoli.
Yeah, not one fucking person. So,
It's
you know,
not like the neighbor is coming over. Excuse me, do you have some eggs? You like that kind of thing. Like, excuse me, do you have any broccoli, good sir? I don't know why they're British.
And so I've always had the issue, especially as a kid growing up in a household where it really wasn't accepting that I, you know, was experimenting in this. I think, you know, I call that more obvious things that you would normally get confused at with your friends. So you wouldn't even, you know, you'd be like, hey man, do you mind if I borrow that pair of shoes? And your boy would actually come over with a pair of shoes. He'd be like, no, that wasn't what I meant. You know, like, yeah, it's like $25 for your pair of shoes. Like, come on, man, you knew it. Like, but no, so I don't know. There was something, there's something funny about that, but I have used the term broccoli before, and I have sent that emoji.
Oh, you sent the broccoli emoji?
I've done it at least once in my life. I know for sure that it has happened.
Oh, that's funny. You got anything awesome you learned this week before we go?
You know, I wish I had the actual statistics right now because it's coming off the top of my head. I couldn't find the article again that I'd read, but it was just talking about what is the average lifespan of a dispensary owner before they sell their license. And, you know, like what the article was pretty much saying was it's usually for only about one term of whatever the license is. So if they renew every year or they renew every 4 years or something, they tend to not, the original owners who originally got into the States and were awarded their first original license tend to only be around after 4 years, you know, to sell out after 4 years and stuff like that. And there's something I was, you know, thinking about that article and what does that mean for the industry if the guys who pioneered it, the ones who originally did all the work to get the state to accept it and all this, are then just selling out and vertically integrating with someone else? What is it that it's too hard to make the money, or it doesn't make sense to own just the dispensary portion of it? There's something there that I want to follow over the next 1 to 3 years and see, if that number goes down or up.
It'll be interesting to see. We'll have to see what happens. All right, Dustin, that is our hour for Because Cannabis. We are all wrapped up here. Thank you, as always, for joining me. We'll see you next week. Oh, we got a comment there. Aldo Jordan, little shout out, vor.life. Who's that? Do you know who that is?
No, I don't. But we're gonna give him a little
good for
shout
you,
out
man.
anyways.
You got the first published comment on Because Cannabis. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to join us next week. And if you have a thought, by the way, on dispensary ownership, at MeetWM, pick your social media, grab your fingers, grab some thumbs. Let us know. Let us know. Type in the comments below to this video what you think about dispensary ownership. We'll talk about it in a future show. Thank you for joining us, Dustin. Thank you, everyone who joined us on the show. Let's do our little outro. We're working on our intro outro. Still working on the technical part of it, right? Kind of vibe. So let's play a little music. See you next week.